Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, June 5th, 2020. I am Dave Biddle. I am very happy to be joined by Jonah Booker for his usual Friday visit. We're going to answer your questions from the front row message board today. We're going to start right at the top with Borny22. J-Book, he asked you if the Big Ten goes with no non-conference games and has 10 conference games, how will the 10th team be decided? And for those who don't know out there, you know it, J-Book. For those who don't know out there, Big Ten plays 9 conference games. They play each of the teams in the division, so that's 6 teams, and they have 3 crossover games. So that's 9 games total. So there'd be 1 more crossover game. How do you think that they would do that, J-Book?
Yeah, that's a great question by him. I'm not sure how they would do it. It would have to be the schedule makers and the Big Ten office who's going to have to determine that. But one thing is for sure, though, if you're someone who has the major top crossover teams on your schedule already, you better hope like heck that you probably get one of those bottom tier teams. If you're Ohio State, the thing that you want to hope for is that that's a home game. Because right now the situation would look like if they had 10 Big Ten games, I don't know how the playoff committee will weigh strength of schedules in this instance, or if somebody had a powerful non-conference game with a schedule, would they get credit? Who knows? I mean, it's so much uncharted territory, but I think it would be a situation where the Big Ten office would need to determine that. So if any, for example, if someone's getting Rutgers on the schedule as their additional one, that right there is not necessarily going to help their strength of scheduling there, but it will probably help them when it comes to benefiting for an easy win.
Yeah, I think it would be some type of lottery, maybe like the old school NBA lottery with the ping pong balls in there, minus the lottery being rigged for Patrick Ewing. All right, next question is also from Borny22. J-Book, J.K. Dobbins had 2,250 total yards last season, including a school record 2,003 rushing yards. All right, over under, he wants to know, 1,500 total yards, rushing and receiving combined for Trey Sermon this year. You going over or under, J-Book?
For me, I definitely think that I'm going to go over in this instance, and the reason that I say that is because you have essentially 445 carries that are up for grabs between J.K. Dobbins and Master T. The status is still out on Teague. I would be really surprised if he's healthy and ready to go, and not necessarily ready to go, but playing at a high level once the season starts. So what does that mean? That means that a guy like Trey Sermon is going to have ample opportunity to be a bell cow back. He's going to get plenty of touches in this offense. He's played in the spread offense, and Ohio State can't have Justin Fields throwing the football 50 times a game. That's just not who we are. We're a power football team with pro and spread concepts, so they're going to need to be able to run the football to at least keep defenses a little bit honest there when it comes to the running back position.
I agree 100%. I don't think he's going to approach 2,000 yards total, but I think he's going to go over 1,500. All right, next question is from LJ Ventresco. LJ Ventresco asks, J-Book, if you could have 3 running backs in their prime next season, out of these 4, who would they be? Archie Griffin, Eddie George, Ezekiel Elliott, or J.K. Dobbins? Who are you leaving out, J-Book, of that awesome foursome?
Yeah, you know what's crazy? I'll have to leave out the 2-time Heisman winner, Archie Griffin.
Man.
Yeah. And I tell you why. I just think that we both know what we're getting out of Zeke and Dobbins in today's game. If Zeke was coming back to college right now, I think that, with Justin Fields there, he would be an absolute monster. And then you throw Eddie George in there, you see the makings of Eddie George when you look at Derrick Henry. But I think Eddie George was a little bit more fluid. So if you threw Eddie George into what you see now as far as offenses. And then the thing that you also have to take into consideration, the game has drastically changed from when the time that Eddie George was playing as far as the rules and the rules benefiting the offenses. Eddie George would just be out there lowering the boom on a lot of these kids, and I think that he would absolutely flourish. I mean, for Archie, I just think that Archie was gifted during his time. He dominated at his time, but I look at the more modern athlete that will be able to give me that extra juice that I need.
Man, I cannot believe you're leaving out Archie of all three. I mean, of all four of those. I mean, Archie, like for me, is just first of all, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I really do. And I think Ezekiel might be the best of them. He was just such a great running back. He's also the best blocking running back I've ever seen. But Archie compared to Dobbins, where it comes down for me, and really and Eddie as well, because I immediately I have Ezekiel Elliott in there. And if Keith Byers was in this, it'd be an even tougher discussion because Keith Byers was fantastic too. But I look at Dobbins against Archie, and they're similar players. And Archie, I think people look at Archie's NFL career, and he was so beat up by the time he got to the NFL. He played 4 years at Ohio State, including 3 years where he got a ton of carries on AstroTurf. Everybody knew Ohio State was going to run the ball, and he was getting the hell beat out of him and still found a way, with his spin moves and everything he did. I just think if I'm taking Archie Griffin or J.K. Dobbins in their prime, to me, they're similar players. I'm taking Archie Griffin, and I love J.K. Dobbins, but I am taking Mr. Archie Griffin, the two-time Heisman Trophy winner. This is going to be funny to read the comments tomorrow, J-Book, to see what people say.
But how good would Dobbins be in Archie's time, though? That's kind of what I try to put myself into. Like, if Dobbins played during Archie's time, would he be a two-time Heisman winner? I feel like, if J.K. Dobbins can do what he did here and be a 2,000-yard back in the modern-day game, I think he would, with guys bigger, stronger, faster, I think that he could probably, absolutely crush what he was doing now during that time. But who knows, especially the way they feed the football. But I don't think there's a wrong answer. But it's a great question. It's a great debate and a question to have sitting around the table with your buddies having a beer or something.
I'll say one last thing, and you can have the last word on it. I hear what you're saying, but imagine Archie Griffin playing in a Ryan Day offense. Now imagine J.K. Dobbins playing in a Woody Hayes offense. You hear me?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you made a great point, and you almost got me trying to move a little bit off my stance there, but that's
I love talking sports. All right, another question. This is from Borny22 again. Borny22 is asking 3 questions on the show, and I like it. They're all good questions. All right, J-Book, if you had to bet the field or Trevor Lawrence plus Justin Fields to win the Heisman this season, who are you taking?
I would take the bet with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, because the thing about the Heisman Trophy, a lot of times if you have the hype going into the season, you're going to get more of the benefit of the doubt. The thing that you have to look at for Justin Fields is he's playing in an offense where he's automatically going to put up monster numbers. But 2, he's playing an offense against inferior competition in the Big Ten. Ohio State is head and shoulders better than, the entire Big Ten. Ohio State is head and shoulders talent-wise better than, 98% of the teams in college football outside, maybe arguably 4 or 5 other teams. So he's going to put up monster stats, since that's what you have to have. Because think about this, Dave. If you go into a situation where Justin Fields in 2 years have put up 100 TDs, he's going to be back in New York. It's going to take a historic type of run from somebody else in order to beat him out if he puts up similar type of numbers. If I truly believe if Joe Burrow didn't step onto the scene last year and have the run that he had, I think there would have been a lot more noise for Justin Fields on what he did, especially for a guy going into, the postseason looking at 50 touchdowns and 1 interception. I mean, that right there is historic amongst itself. And then Trevor Lawrence is always going to be there. I'm not really as high on Trevor Lawrence this year, especially with the depletion of their wide receiver cores, but he has immense talent. I think if he can really carry Clemson and he puts up big numbers, especially with a lot of his wide receiver core leaving, then he's going to be a guy that's going to be in the mix.
I agree with you 100%, Jay Book. I would definitely take, and I would bet heavily on Fields or Lawrence against the field. If it was just one of them, I would take the field. That's always a safer bet. You give me those two, give me the two favorites against the field. Yeah, I would definitely take Fields or Lawrence over the field. Next question comes from OC Buck fan. OC Buck fan. Jay Book, going into the season, Clemson and Alabama look like they are the biggest threats to an Ohio State national title, which is no surprise. What is your breakdown of those teams? How do you think they would compare to Ohio State?
Yeah, we'll start with Clemson, just looking at them. First thing that stands out to me when it comes to Clemson is their schedule is terrible. Their best out-of-conference game is like Akron and the Citadel and Notre Dame, and then the rest of the ACC is absolutely trash. So to me, Clemson will be right where they were at last year. But the thing is, I don't think Clemson is going to be as good. People haven't really talked about it a lot, but the announcement from Clemson this week that Justin Ross, their star wide receiver, is going to be out for the season is a huge blow for them. Because if you look at their passing attack in the playoffs, it was shut down with Okudah and Arnett really locking up Justin Fields and T. Higgins. Trevor Lawrence really struggled.
Justin Ross, Justin Ross. Yes, sir.
And where did Trevor Lawrence get his passing numbers from? He got them from dump offs to ATN in a screen game. And if you look at the national championship, they struggled throwing the football there. He looked awful in the national championship because his wide receivers couldn't get open. And those were his two top playmakers. And now those two are gone. What you're essentially asking is someone to step up big time from that wide receiver group who hasn't done it yet. Not saying it can't be done because Clemson has recruited, but you're asking a lot of guys who haven't played at that high level, who haven't really thrived on the biggest stage, which is the playoffs, in order for them to get back to where they want to be, which is winning the national championship. But I think because of default, because the schedule is so terrible, that they will be back in the playoffs. On defense there, they lost quite a bit of guys. You look at the star linebacker, he went first round to Arizona. Tanner Muse, the safety, he got picked up by the Raiders late. They had a corner get drafted early on, so they lost some guys. And as far as their defensive line there, Clemson's defensive line doesn't necessarily concern me because they get highly rated guys, but they really don't flash like that. That's not really how they go about their business in Brent Venable's defense. Their defensive line are talented, but they're not world beaters. But like I said, as far as them, they'll be back. Alabama, they're going to be a threat. I think Alabama, they're going to be projected once the preseason polls and stuff start getting released. They're going to be projected to win the SEC. The thing about Alabama is they have a lot of question marks, again, especially on defense. Now they get their star linebacker back, Moses, out of their five-star linebacker who had tore his ACL. He's back this year, so that's going to be a big boom to the inside of their defense. But the thing is Alabama, they had a lot of injuries last year. And with the quarterback coming back, Mac Jones, he performed at a very high level for a guy as a first-time starter. So if he can build off of that under Steve Sarkisian's guidance, then they're going to be pretty good because they have two NFL wide receivers who are being projected as first-round picks once again. So the talent is there. And then Najee Harris, who a lot of people believe will be a first-round or second-round running back. So Alabama is Alabama. The talent speaks for itself. It's just going to be how will that defense get together because they gave up a ton of points in the SEC last year, and it cost them big time. But I think Ohio State and Alabama will be the two top teams when it comes to talent in the college football this year, unless somebody absolutely just has a tremendous breakout season. You can see, Georgia with Jamie Newman stepping up and with Monken coming over there as the offensive coordinator who's supposed to be changing their system completely around. That's one to keep an eye on.
Quick follow-up before we get to our final question from a listener. You mentioned the quarterback situation at Alabama. Mac Jones, to me last year, I agree. I thought he played better than I expected he would. He reminds me of A.J. McCarron, who wasn't flashy at all at Alabama, but won 2 national titles and was very steady. But they did sign the number 1 quarterback in the country, Bryce Young, good friends with C.J. Stroud. And the Buckeyes are very happy to have C.J. Stroud. And it's going to be tough for Bryce Young being a true freshman. But, hey, Nick Saban has proven before he will start true freshmen, right, Tua, right, Jalen Hurts?
Absolutely.
Do you think there's much do you think there's a good chance that Bryce Young could beat out Mac Jones? What do you think is going to happen there?
I think there's a good chance. I mean, the thing that you have to give Nick Saban a lot of credit for is he does not play favoritism. He does not play the seniority game. He had the balls big enough to bench his all SEC player of the year quarterback on the biggest stage at the biggest moment for a young freshman. So he's not afraid to play the best guys. And if the Bryce Young comes in there and he is as good as advertised as a lot of people think he is, and he goes into that camp. But the one thing I will say is, speaking of camp, a lot of these young quarterbacks miss a significant amount of time, Dave, so they're going to be behind the curve. If it was a situation where these young quarterbacks, and even at Ohio State, was able to go through a full spring practice and they were able to get a grasp of the college speed, the college, just the lifestyle in general, the in-depth calls on the playbook that it takes in order to understand it at the college level, I think he will have a much better shot. But if you're Alabama right now, and I think you're going to see Mac Jones at the helm, especially because they trust him and they don't have a lot of time with Bryce Young. If Bryce Young is the starting quarterback come day one, that means that kid is phenomenal, because he came in there with just a short amount of time and beat that kid out.
Yeah, good situation for Alabama. I mean, I know everybody listening to the show is probably like, we don't want a good situation for Alabama, but you got the veteran quarterback in Mac Jones, and then they'll probably go with him. And then if something happens, if he doesn't perform well, if he gets hurt, you got the number 1 quarterback recruit in the country. Maybe he's a true freshman ready to come in. And, yeah, that's a good situation down there. Of course, I'll take Ohio State's quarterback situation over anybody's in the country right now. Love Justin Fields, love the backups. So the Buckeyes are not looking down on anybody, or not looking up at anybody when it comes to quarterbacks. All right, final question on the show here, J-Book. It's about Demario McCall. This comes from Buckeye Ball 14. Buckeye Ball 14 just basically wants to know, J-Book, Demario McCall, he's a 5th-year senior now. He's been moving back and forth between running back, receiver. He's been a kick returner here and there, punt returner. J-Book, what do you expect out of Demario McCall this year? Do you think he could – I don't think anybody, including Buckeye Ball 14 here, isn't asking if he's going to jump Trey Sermon for the starting spot. Could you see Demario McCall jumping Master Teague for the backup spot? Just what do you expect out of him this year?
Yeah, I just don't have a lot of faith right now. I was on the Demario McCall hype train for a while, man, because I thought, 2 years ago, that Michigan game when he lit up Devin Bush, and then you saw him getting meaningful snaps, and the way that they was utilizing him was beautiful. He was a Swiss Army knife. They were forcing Big Ten linebackers to guard him in space, and he was absolutely tearing them up. And then you look at, him going into the Big Ten championship in the Rose Bowl, and McCall was balling. And then last year, he's MIA. They just didn't have a role for him. He didn't really fit in anywhere. And then I think with the talent that we have now at the wide receiver position, I don't know where he sees the field over some of the guys that we already have, because a lot of these guys are true wide receivers that knows the position. They know how to run the routes, and majority of those guys is NFL talent. As far as the running back position, if it was up to me, I would have him spilling Trey Sermon at times when he needs a blow until you get Marcus Crowley back healthy and you get Master Teague back healthy. Now, once Master Teague is full go and he's showing that he has the ability to make people miss in space, then I think you can see Demario's numbers and snaps being reduced. But as of right now, sorry, Dave.
Your son is allowed to be on the show. We have Dwayne's. We're not even cutting this out. We have Dwayne's dogs on the show all the time. This is good stuff. We're just going to pretend like we're live right now. Your son is allowed on the show. What's up, J-Book, son? What's your son's name?
My son's name is Kyler. He just woke up from his nap.
What's up, Kyler?
He came into the room after his nap to say hi.
Hi, Kyler. You're on the Bucknuts Morning 5, and we're not cutting this out, I promise.
That's okay. You want to say hi? He doesn't want to. He came in to give me a gummy. But, yeah, we just finished at the show. But I think Demario has a chance to really get a couple running back carries there. That's where they're going to need him most. But I hope for him, because he stuck it out within the program for so long, that he'll be able to find some type of way to help this football team, even if it's on special teams, returning kicks. But as an every down position player, to me, I think the wide receiver room is absolutely loaded right now. So running back will be my call, where we could see him making some type of significant contribution.
Very well said. Thank you to your contributions on the Bucknuts Morning 20 plus here, J-Book. And thank you to Kyler for making his debut on the show. Really appreciate both of you. And thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning in to the show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you like the show, give us a 5-star review. It really helps. Thanks again to J-Book. Thanks again to Kyler. And thanks again to all the listeners out there. Hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend. Let's hear that Buckeye swag. Best day of band in the land.